breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson, who does such great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. We're going to take a look at a few teams that he feels like has some upside this season, how he tries to find some edges here in the early part of the baseball season, the sneaky value that you can find in terms of these guys that maybe year number 1 coming off a major surgery, they struggle, but now they're in year number 2, year number 3, and beyond, and some guys just never recover from injuries as well. And then we're going to be chatting with them a little bit about some of these teams that might not be trustworthy with their bullpens as well. So nice, a wide-ranging chat with Rob in segment number 2. In the final segment, we only have 3 games on the board. I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on all 3 as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, whatever for this podcast, you have 1 or 2 ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at Juden_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but we had a fun day of baseball on Wednesday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Chris Sale on the Braves off to a nice start. Athletics not so much. 5-1, the Atlanta Braves get the job done here as the Athletics now 1-5 this far this season as Luis Severino gives up 4 runs in 3 1/3 innings. From there, you had Elvis Alvarado in the building. Well, he left the building, giving up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Hogadere's 2 scoreless innings. Luis Medina, 2 scoreless innings, but for Sale, gives up just 1 hit. That 1 hit, a solo home run to Shea Langoliers as Shea bangs his 5th home run already of the season. From there, Robert Suarez still in the lead, Raciel Iglesias all led a scoreless inning for the Atlanta Braves to be able to get the job done. The Orioles get the job done against the Walker Texas Rangers, 8-3 the final. Rough first few starts of the season for Nathan Eovaldi. 6 runs allowed in 4 innings, gives up a home run to Samuel Basallo, his first of the campaign. Then Dylan Beavers, nice Beaver home run for him, his first of the campaign. That comes off of Carter Baumler. He gives up that home run in 2 innings of work. Tyler Alexander, he gives up a run in an inning. Jacob Latz, scoreless inning, and Trevor Rogers just continues to be masterful with the Orioles. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. And then from there, Albert Suarez, he goes for 3 innings for a save. Gives up just 1 run, that being a solo home run to Corey Seager, his 3rd home run of the campaign. Got plenty of runs from the Milwaukee Brewers as they're able to take it to the Tampa Bay Rays. This by a count of 8-2 as the Rays bullpen is not what it once was. As Drew Rasmussen, not a bad start here. 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, give it up in his 5 innings of work. Did give up a home run to Bryce Rang, first home run of the season, and Ian Seymour, 2 scoreless innings, but Griffin Jackson gets jacked up. 3 earned runs, 5 runs in total without getting a single out of the bullpen. Now he's hurt by the fact that Junior Caminero had not 1, not 2, but 3 errors in this game. He now has 5 on the season. He's on pace for 135 errors, and then Mason Englert from there gives up a run in an inning, but the Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, solid start here, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. He give up a home run to Yandy Diaz, his 2nd home run of the campaign. From there, Grant Anderson, Aaron Ashby, DL Turn It Up Hall are all able to give you a scoreless inning. Took extras for the Philadelphia Phillies to get the job done, but they do so against the Washington Nationals. This by a kind of 6-5 as for the Washington Nationals, they were up 5-1 going into the bottom of the 7th inning. They upchucked this game as Bryce Harper, who's been cold to start the season, he was able to get his 1st home run of the campaign. That comes off of Cionel Perez in the 8th inning as Perez, he gives up that home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. And then you had Andre Granillo give up a home run in 2/3 of an inning, that to JT Realmuto, as Kate Cavalli did his part. 6 innings, gives up a 1 run, and then the bullpen upchucks it from there. Clayton Beater gives up a run in an inning. PJ Poulin gives up a run in 1/3 of an inning. Cole Henry, he goes for the 10th inning. He gives up an unearned run as walking this one off. You had Mr. Juan Crawford be able to get an RBI single, and Christopher Sanchez, pretty solid start here, 5 1/3 innings, allows a run for the Phillies. From there, their bullpen wasn't great. Brad Keller gives up a 3-run homer to CJ Abrams, his first of the campaign. Jonathan Bolin, he gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, but Zach Pop, Jose Alvarado, Yohan Duran, all able to lend a scoreless inning. So the Phillies, they avoid a big loss there. A big win here for the Pittsburgh Pirates, 8-3. They take down the Cincinnati Reds. Paul Skeens, after that rough opening day outing, much better here. 1 run allowed in 5 innings, and Oneil Cruz did not play the outfield like a little leaguer, and hey, he got a home run in this game. game, third of the campaign. That comes off of Andrew Abbott, who gives up 4 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Connor Phillipson out of the bullpen scoreless. Graham Ashcraft, Tony Santillan, both on his scoreless inning, and then Emilio Pagan in the 9th inning. This guy's just not good. 4 runs allowed over the course of an inning. He gives up a home run to Brian Reynolds, his second of the campaign, and for Eugenio Suarez, he will go deep off of Mason Montgomery, second home run of the campaign. Montgomery gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Isaac Manson, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Justin Lawrence, Gregory Soto, they're both able to end a scoreless inning for the Buccos. How about the Colorado Rockies getting a 2-1 win over the Toronto Blue Jays? This in 10 innings as Kyle Freeland allows just 1 run in 5 innings, and the bullpen stepped up. Antonio Senzatella, 2 scoreless innings. Victor Vodnik, Brendan Bernardino, Jimmy Herget all led a scoreless inning, and Kevin Gausman was great. 10 punch-out, 6 scoreless innings. He did his part. From there, you had a scoreless inning out of Tyler Rogers, one of the 2 Rogers brothers. Tommy Nance gives up a run in a third of an inning. Mason Flaherty, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Jeff Huffman, a scoreless 9th inning, and then Brandon Little gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning as both of these teams rough with men in scoring position. The Rockies 2 of 12. The Blue Jays just 1 of 8, and the Blue Jays, they take back-to-back losses here to the Colorado Rockies. You don't find that very often. For the St. Louis Cardinals, they get the job done against the Mets. 2-1 the final as the Mets had 3 guys just not know where a fly ball off the bat of Mason Wynn went in the 11th inning that caused for a loss, and they went 0 of 11 with men in scoring position. Freddie Peralta does his part, gives up 1 run in 5 1/3 innings, and honestly, the bullpen was good. Oscar Brazoban, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Luke Weaver, Brooks Raley, Devin Williams, all in that scoreless inning, and Tobias Myers, he comes in for a scoreless 10th inning, and then in the 11th inning, his fielders lost the ball on him for an unearned run. Matthew Lubator was rock solid though as well, gives up a home run in 6 innings as going deep off of him. Juan Soto, first of the campaign. Ryan Stanek, Jojo Romero, 2 scoreless innings between the 2 of them. Riley O'Brien, Justin Brule, both give you a scoreless inning apiece, and then Chris Roycroft and Grayson Garcifo, they're able to combine for that scoreless 11th inning to be able to get the job done. The Detroit Tigers get shut out by the Arizona Diamondbacks. 1-0, the Saints get the job done. Corbin Carroll in the first inning goes deep off of Tariq Skubal, his second of the campaign. Lone run in this game. Zach Gallen, 6 scoreless innings, only 2 strikeouts, but he kept things clean there. Taylor Clark along with Juan Barrio and Jonathan Loaizaga all led his scoreless inning. For Skubal, just gives up that solo run in the first inning over the course of 7 innings. Kyle Finnegan is scoreless inning, but absolutely no help from his friends, so the Diamondbacks get the job done there. For the Astros, after back-to-back losses to the Angels, now 5 straight wins, and the Red Sox are now 1-5, 6 of 4. The Astros get the job done. Mike Burrows gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, AJ Bluebaugh, Brian King both led a scoreless inning. You have Brian Abreu give up a solo run in his inning of work, and Kaiwei Tang also allowed a solo home run. Going deep for the Boston Red Sox, Weiler Abreu wiles out for his 3rd home run of the campaign, and Roman Anthony is first, but Garrett Crochet got lit up in this game. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in 5 innings, including a home run given up to Carlos Correa, his first of the campaign. And then you had Christian Vasquez go deep a little bit later on off of Danny Kaloum for his first of the campaign. For Kaloum, gives up that home run in an inning of work, and then Greg Weiser, Garrett Woodlock, they were both able to turn a scoreless inning, but too little too late out there, and this team was able to find a way to get it done again. The Yankees are 5-1, 5-3. They take down the Seattle Mariners as Cam Schlittler, 6 1/3 innings, scoreless, 7 punch-outs, looking very good to start the season. Bullpen had a little bit of a rough go of it. Camilo Duvall gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. David Benner, he gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings, but Francisco Cruz, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, but the team was able to get to George Kirby as Paul Goldschmidt gets his first home run of the campaign, 3-run shot as Kirby gives up 4 runs in 6 innings, including that bomb. Cooper Kurzweil gives up a home run to Ben Rice in the 9th inning, his first of the campaign, goes 2 innings, giving up that home run, and then Jose Ferrer, a scoreless inning, but Yankees pitching, I believe they have given up now like 6 runs over the first 6 games of the season, so they have certainly been getting the job done. So of the Slam Diego Padres, 7-1, they take down the San Francisco Giants. For the Giants, not a lot doing off of Nick Pivetta, who goes for 5 scoreless innings, gives up 1 hit, punches out 8. From there, Jeremiah Estrada scoreless inning. Andre Morejon gives up a run in 1 2/3 innings, but Mason Miller, 4 out save out of him, and Adrian Hauser, pretty solid in this game. 5 1/3 innings, does allow 7 hits, but he gives up 3 runs, 1 of which was earned. He was hurt by a pair of errors by Casey Schmidt and Matt Chapman, so he had no help there whatsoever. And then you had 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless from Caleb Killian. From there, you had Jose Buto give up 4 walks in a third of an inning. He gives up 4 runs, 28 pitches thrown, 8 strikes, including a bases loaded walk with 4 straight balls to be able to put in there a bases loaded walk, so that was not great. And Ryan Baruki, pair of outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Giants unable to get it done there. This team is able to get the job done, though. How about the Chicago Cubs? 6-2. They take down the LA Angels as Matthew Boyd. Nice start here. 10 punch-outs, gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned in 5 2/3 innings. Hunter RV, 4 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Caleb Theobald, Daniel Palencia, lend a scoreless inning, and Yusei Kikuchi, I say he gave up 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Ryan Zephyrion, unearned run given up in 2/3 of an inning. Brent Suter, 2 scoreless innings. By then, it had been too little too late for the Cubs. They go 6 of 16 with men in scoring position to be able to get the job done out there. For the Kansas City Royals, they definitely get the job done. 13-9, and the game wasn't even quite that close against the Minnesota Twins. Twins are able to do a solid job of getting to the bullpen, but for Noah Cameron, he was able to do his part for the Minnesota Twins. Goes out there, gives up a 1 run over the course of 5 innings. From there, Nick Mears, a scoreless innings. Nick Mears, a scoreless inning. Daniel Lynch does give up 3 runs, one of which was earned in his inning of work. Nick Lofton hurt him with an error, but Alex Lang does give up 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning. You had Steven Cruz give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and then Bailey Falter sure does live up to his name. Gives up a home run to Josh Bell. First of the campaign for Bell. Gives up 3 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Lucas Erceg has to come on from there. Get the final 2 outs of the game for a save. And for Joe Ryan, not what he was looking for. 5 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. From there, you had 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, given up by Cody Lawyerson over the course of 1 1/3 innings. Pair of bombs, 4 runs in total given up by Zach Kent in 1 2/3 innings. Only one of them was earned. He was hurt by a Victor Carantini throwing error, but Jonathan India, first home run of the campaign. Kyle Isabel is second, and then Anthony Banda, a scoreless inning. And the Dodgers having a little bit of a tough time with their bats, as you had Gavin Williams rocking and rolling in this one for the Cleveland Guardians. 4-1, they take down the LA Dodgers as Yoshinobu Yamamoto had a solid start here for the Dodgers. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Does give up a home run to Gabriel Urias, his first home run of the campaign. And then Jose Ramirez gets his first home run of the season. That comes out for Tanner Scott, who gives up a run in 1/3 of an inning. Will Klein, 1 2/3 innings. He allows a run as Tanner Scott inherited one of those runs in the home run to Jose Ramirez. And then Blake Trinan, scoreless inning, but Gavin Williams, 2 hits allowed, 10 punch-outs, 7 scoreless innings. Sean Armstrong, Eric Sabrowski combined for a scoreless inning. Cade Smith has been having issues. He does give up a home run to Mr. Alex Freeland, his first home run campaign, but that's a lone run that the LA Dodgers are able to get in this one. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in baseball right now, we're now through about a week or so of the season, and the under rate is right around 52.3%, 46 unders of 42 overs. The underdogs having a little bit of a rough go of it on the money line. Favorites are hitting at 60.7%, 54 and 35. But that said, we have seen already 9 different favorites not be able to cover the run line. So underdogs closer to 500 on the run and half run line. That's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do chat it up with one of our good friends in Rob Donaldson, take a look at how he bets the early part of the season and a few teams. It is bullish/bearish on right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Rob Donaldson aboard. He does great work over at Underdog Fantasy, looking at the great game of baseball, looking at football, college basketball, you name it, he does it. I know he does a great job with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets, over on youtube.com/Rob Donaldson, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at RobBFB altogether. And Rob, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. And my goodness, man, we're back in the swing of things of baseball, and we already have storylines developing. We already have standout players. We already have standout teams, and it just feels so good, even though it's a very, very small sample. When you're looking at 162 plus the playoffs, it's something, and that's all I can really care about right now.
Absolutely, and I'll start off with this. Did you go in on any futures this offseason, or are you mostly going game to game? Because I always do think that with futures in baseball, it's so unpredictable because you don't know what's going to happen at the trade deadline. You don't know with injuries, what have you. Like, everyone thought the Atlanta Braves were going to be great last season. Newsflash, they were not great last season. But is there anything that you took a look at, or you just going game to game this season?
I'm very, very game to game when it comes to the start of Major League Baseball season, but before the trade deadline. I do like to get on those teams that maybe are planning to kind of sit on their hands and just kind of hold the roster that they have rather than sell. Almost kind of those surprise teams that, like, hey, we're about to make the playoffs, or we might have a chance in the playoffs. We were going to completely sell off this roster, but we might as well stand pat. I kind of like finding future spots on those types of teams. And I also like backing a little bit on those sneaky buyers at the deadline as well. But at this point in the season, I am very much just a game to game better, both on the player prop market and on the game by game, like sides market as well.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I think that that's the best way to go about things. And where there are a few teams coming into the season, and still might be because we're only like 5-6 games into the season for all these teams. So don't want to have too many overreactions. But that said, are there a few teams that you are feeling bull/bearish on right now in comparison to the market?
I looked at the Miami Marlins right out the gate and just kind of looking at all the young pieces that they had in their lineup, and even, looking at just the three-headed monster that they have of the rotation, assuming that they can keep that health intact with Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, and Max Meyer. I was looking at that as I get it. They were a little bit of kind of tentative sellers with some of their mainstay pieces in the offseason, but they still have a number of really solid players. And heck, there are some guys right now, when you look at a Kyle Stowers and a Stuart Ruiz, who are on the IL, that I felt like could be impact players in this type of setting where there are low expectations and you just have a lot of talented young energy almost kind of feeding off of each other. And in the early goings, we'll see what this sample size actually brings, but 5-1 out the gate is very, very respectable. So far, Sandy Alcantara, again, knock on wood, but it kind of feels like he's returning a little bit back to the form that we've seen from Sandy when he's been so dominant in Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. I thought that this was going to be a big year for him because it's year 2 coming off of major surgery. And how much do you want to take a look at some of those guys? Like, at this point, I am going to the conclusion that Walker Buehler might be washed. That's not great, to say the least. But a lot of these guys that are coming in off of season number 2 of major surgery, I think that there's a lot of upside there. And the guys on season number 1, for me, they're going to be big giant fades this season.
I'm actually right there with you. I think injuries in general are just the ultimate wild card because some people get rounded back into form like we might be seeing from Sandy. Other guys who had just kind of nagging injuries for a lot of different years kind of fall into like this rut of never being able to get out of it, despite the severity of the injury not being crazy significant. And so, there's such a psychological element when you're talking about the pitchers in this sport, because we see it especially in the bullpen, right? Like every single year we have games that pop up with a sub-1 or sub-2 ERA. And it's like, where did this journeyman who's 32 years old is all of a sudden just the absolute best pitcher in baseball, and we're going to be very highly sought after at the deadline. And then you have that guy from the previous year throwing up, a 5 ERA and getting shelled left and right. And so I think on the pitching side of things, there are guys who are the ultimate constants, but there are going to be some guys in that middle tier, whether it's, the 3 to 5 hole slot in the rotation, or just kind of those mid rotation or mid bullpen guys who were great last year who fall off a cliff. I think you have to take it just from the sample size approach of, hey, let's kind of review where they're at after 5 appearances in the new season, and then we kind of take our stand on whether or not, a guy is viable to be back in on the betting front there.
Yep, I think that that's a great way of going about it. It's Rob Donaldson, who does such great work over at Underdog Fantasy, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And how much do you just want to take a look at the track record of some of these organizations? Because I had a lot of people saying coming into the year, oh, this might not be the year for the Houston Astros. This could be the year that they fall off. As we are chatting, they are currently 5-2. They took down the Red Sox on Wednesday. A lot of people were down on the Milwaukee Brewers. They take down a Rays team that's one thing that is not a constant anymore. The Rays bullpen is terrible. Holy crud. When you're throwing out their Griffin Jacks. That's not good. We don't want Griffin Jacks. But that said, Brewers are looking strong. And a lot of people thought that the Cardinals were going to stink on ice. And here they are at 4-2 because the Mets can't field a fly ball. But that said, how do you take a look at these organizations where, they've been to the playoffs time and time again? A lot of people were down on them, and once again, all 3 of those teams are above 500.
Well, I think baseball is beautiful because every single year, I think when you look at some of these kind of sneaky underdog teams, like obviously you're going to have the Yankees, you're going to have the Dodgers as kind of those mainstay competitors because they spend 2x what everybody else does. The Mets you can throw in there, sure, as well, even though it hasn't really kind of turned into fruition in terms of actually winning championships or others. But I think when you're looking at the teams who are potentially able to exceed expectations, a lot of it just comes down to the energy in the clubhouse, because a lot of these teams are youthful exuberance, and then the front office is kind of viewing them as, hey, maybe we kind of strike some boom type of prospects in this mix, or a lot of young guys that we can plan for the future. And sometimes, kind of like what we saw with the A's last year, with Nick Kurtz, with Lawrence Butler, with just a number of guys in that lineup that had that high upside that really rose to the occasion. I feel like sometimes when you have that sort of comprised squad, it can fit. I think we're seeing it with the Cardinals right now. So many young guys in this lineup, so little expectations for their longevity this season, but don't tell Jordan Walker that, right? Like that was a former top prospect who's hitting the cover off the baseball right now. JJ Weatherhold's come up and he's doing work himself at the top of the lineup for the Cardinals. Mason Wynn, a lot of young kind of good energy on that team. And I think, heck, you even look at a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates, you look at a team like, again, we just talked about the Miami Marlins, and you look at a team on the other side of the spectrum with the Boston Red Sox, where it kind of feels like this is disaster mode. Like, people are talking about pressing the panic button already, because this is a top spender yet again. And it just kind of feels like for a second straight year, maybe even almost 2.5 years in a row now, this lineup is completely in the rut right out the gate. And so how fast does this ball club, the fan base, turn on Alex Cora if they just continue down this little, downturn trend to start the year? We'll see. But I certainly know for a fact that energy in that building right now, when you're talking about the Boston Red Sox, is a lot worse than the St. Louis Cardinals, which you probably wouldn't have pegged 6 games in the into the season.
Yeah, who would have thought that the Boston Red Sox would be tied for last place in the American League with the Athletics and the Chicago White Sox right now? That's not company that you want to be keeping, to say the least, as Rob Donaldson, who does such great work with the show Rob's Best Bets, along with Underdog Fantasy, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And how much you just want to be targeting some of these bad bullpens as well, because I mentioned it in passing, but it needs to be brought up. The Rays, for so long, they were always a team that found good bullpen pitching. They would get the job done there. Holy crud, these guys are terrible this season. The Chicago White Sox, I mean, if you ever see like the picture of them trying to use a cheese puff as the lock on a door, that is the Chicago White Sox trying to lock down a game. Like, holy crud, they are bad as well. But it feels like there's like 5 bullpens. Yes, looking at you, the LA Angels, where you can just bet against them night in, night out. It feels like your bet has no hope whatsoever. But because of how bad the bullpen is on the other side, you have life.
And, I'll say this because, again, kind of going back to almost kind of full circle in this conversation, the bullpens year over year can be the craziest sort of difference from, being the best in baseball to the worst in baseball. We saw that kind of with the Orioles, like the last 2 years, on that polar side of polar opposite ends of the spectrum. And heck, out the gate, and again, very small sample size. We'll see how this materializes. But you look at a team like the Colorado Rockies, and all of a sudden, you're seeing a team where the bullpen is actually keeping runs off the board. Like, I get it. They haven't really had that chance to play in Coors yet, and we'll see what that looks like when they do get the elevation involved. But I think from that standpoint, early on, if you were somebody who's back in the full game market against the Rockies, laying these run lines or laying the overs or laying the other team's team total overs, I think from that standpoint, you've been very, very disappointed, because the Rockies have not been an over team except when they are the ones actually initiating the scoring. And so, again, we're talking about 5-game and 6-game samples. Certainly, I don't think the Rockies are going to be a team that stays above the Red Sox or on par with the Padres as the season progresses. But in the early goings, I always like kind of backing the angles of, there's not a team that's as bad as you think they are. This is still Major League Baseball. The worst teams are still going to win 60 or 70 games. And that gives you a real opportunity when you are seeing these plus 210, plus 170 money lines, both in the first 5 market and the full game market, in my opinion.
Yep, absolutely. With the Rockies, they actually kept, I feel like it was survival of the fittest last season with their bullpen. They kept the guys that actually got outs, and there were quite a few that did not, and they are no longer with the team. So they've done a good job. Yeah, I love those guys. They were not meant for a big league mound, and we found that out very, very quickly. And Well, Rob, we've got ourselves 3 games on the card for Thursday. This is going to be one of the smallest cards that we have all season long, but is there anything that you are going to be looking at from these 3 games and any bets that you're going to be looking to place?
Almost feels like, when they had that isolated opening between the Giants and Yankees, and then the next day it's like, let's just take a day off. I don't know why Major League Baseball scheduling part of the season is like this, where because of a postponement, we have literally 3 games on the entire board. I don't even know what to say to that other than just pure disgust. But, looking at the games, there are fun games. Like you look at the Twins Royals, that's a division rivalry, and certainly we're going to figure out just how good the young bats in this Royals lineup actually are, because I don't necessarily think that the Twins in this type of setting where we'll see what the weather looks like, maybe 73 and some showers. I feel like from that standpoint, maybe the bats aren't going to be as alive as they are in July and August. But at the same time, Jack Caglione, Michael Franco, all these young players who are integrated to the lineup with the Royals right now, I'm kind of bullish on just the upside for this next couple of months here. And, I think the Twins, when you are looking at a depleted bullpen and just really a matchup with a guy like a Taj Bradley, who is very, very hittable, gives up a lot of hard contact, I'm looking at the team total over for the Royals. And again, we'll see how that game, the first game of the matchup, or the series rather, plays out. Second game of the series. I think when you look at the Royals, that could be a offensive explosion type of team if everything gets rolling at the same time. And, when you look down the list at another game that I'm going to be very, very keen on backing, I look at the Diamondbacks, who've kind of been off to this weird little stretch of started off terrible, have kind of picked it up as of late over the last couple games. I expected them to keep that pedal to the metal, and I think they're going to have a chance to beat the Braves outright as a small little dog here on Thursday.
Yep, I think that they've got a shot as well, and I do think that we've got ourselves a fun 3 games that we are going to be seeing on Thursday. And Cole Ragans, one of the most unlucky pitchers I saw all of baseball last season, 460, rate at 250 fielding independence. So I think that he's going to be able to have some success there. And we always have success when you're aboard. Rob, you do such a great job looking at this game. You do a great job on the college basketball front and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, it's always a blast talking ball with you, whether it's basketball or on the diamond. And, I appreciate having you on all these years. It's going to be a very fun Major League Baseball season this year. And, for those who want to follow my bets on a daily basis, Twitter/X at RobDFB, and also on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. But as always, Greg, I appreciate having me on, man.
It is always great to be able to get Rob aboard every single time he joins me, learns such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Rob for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming next, well, I got 3 games on the board, but I give you picks and analysis on all 3 of those games for this Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Rob Donaldson. He does such great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. Does great work over at Underdog Fantasy. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on all 3 games on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GNet_D1. With Las Vegas rotation order, it goes National League games first, then American League games, and Interleague games are at the bottom. We have no Interleague games, so the 2 National League games will be up first, and then we'll hit Royals versus Twins. 9:51, 9:52, the Braves, they're on the road against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Ryan Nelson goes for the Snakes, and Reynaldo Lopez is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. Braves who find themselves between minus 122 to minus 126 favorites, seeing about a plus 105 price here on the Diamondbacks. And if we could get to a plus 110, that will be my buy point there. And I do think that we will when we get the dime lines. Heck, if you're looking to lay a run half with the Braves, that's right around about a plus 130. I would even be willing to take a run half at like a minus 145, minus 150 with the Snakes. So some form of capacity. I'm going to be in on Arizona. Like I said, I think think that I would need at least a plus 110 to get there, but I think that we get that sooner rather than later. And with Reynaldo Lopez, he had himself just such a masterful 2024 season. Gets limited to just one start last season and looks solid at his first start of the season. I just don't know if he's going to be the same guy this season that he was a few seasons ago, because he was getting 9.8 strikeouts per 9 innings in that 2024 campaign, 199 ERA, but that fielding independent was more around about a 290, and even though he gave up just 1 run in 6 innings in his first start in 2026, that was for 1 against the Royals. 2, he got just 3 strikeouts, and now he goes up against a Diamondbacks team that averaged 4.9 runs per game last season. That was 4th in the league. Now Ryan Nelson, coming off of a rough start, he gave up 4 runs over the course of 4 2/3 innings. Last year, about a 3.38 ERA, but about 7.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Does a solid job keeping the walks down, but I think that he might have a little bit of difficulty here against the Atlanta Braves. Not sure if the Braves ever return to that offense that was so good a few seasons ago, back in 2023, when they averaged 5.75 runs per game. But Drake Baldwin won Rookie of the Year last year, already up to 3 home runs. That's a good sign for the team. Matt Olson, he's moving the line, 29 home runs each of the last 2 seasons. I think that he'll have himself a better year this year. Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris, they had rough seasons last year. I think that they're going to look better. And Ronald Acuna Jr., it's been off to a rough start to begin the season. He's yet to hit a home run, hitting a $150. He's going to be much better moving forward. So I do think that the Atlanta Braves lineup going to be solid here. Bullpen, I like Tyler Kinley, sub 250 ERA since coming over to the Braves at the trade deadline last season. Robert Suarez was a good pickup from the Padres. Raisel Iglesias was terrible at the closer spot last season, though. In the middle relief is neither here nor there now. Diamondbacks bullpen is awful. Last year, 27th in the league in ERA at a 4.82. They still have AJ Puck on the injured list. Juan Murillo is terrible. Taylor Clark, who they pick up from the Royals, I think could be okay. I'm not a fan of Paul Sewald whatsoever, but again, this offense is just so good. You've got guys like a Geraldo Perdomo, Gabriel Moreno that may not hit for a ton of power, but they're capable of hitting at 275 plus. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte is just absolutely incredible. Last season, he was doing a great job with a 375 on base, 28 home runs, had 36 a previous year. Corbin Carroll's good for 25 plus bombs, hitting above 250. Alec Thomas moves the line. I think that there's upside with Jordan Lawler. He has not really been able to put it together with regards to power, but a young 23-year-old that I think has potential. Not a fan of Carlos Santana, but still, I do think that the Diamondbacks are going to be able to get to Lopez. I think that Nelson is going to give up his fair share of runs as well. Semi-total 9.2, whether you've got an 8.5 or a 9, like the over. And like I said, think that we get there when it's all said and done, plus 110 or better. Looking at the Diamondbacks on the money line. If not, would take a 1.5 on that 1.5 run line. 953, 954, the San Francisco Giants playoffs to the New York Mets. David Peterson, great name, is on the bump for the Mets, and Robbie Ray says hip hip hooray to another start for San Francisco. 7.5 is the total. The over is between minus 115 to even money. Under is between minus 105 to minus 120. With the Mets are anywhere between minus 124 to minus 130 favorites. Between plus 105 to plus 112 is that number on the Giants, and I'm going to take the Giants. Plus 108 or better is my buy point there. David Peterson was just wretched in the back half of the season last year. In the starts that he made post All-Star break, 6.34 ERA, 4.2 walks per 9 innings allowed. Now Robbie Ray, similar issues, 4.1 walks allowed per 9 innings after the All-Star break, 5.54 ERA with 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Both of these guys had really good starts to the season, so I do think that they'll iron that out a little bit. And with the Giants and the Mets, both of these teams just not the same with their bullpens as they were a season ago. With the Mets, you lose Edwin Diaz, obviously perhaps one of the best closers in all baseball. They do pick up Devin Williams, who he was terrible last year, but when he was with the Brewers before Pete Alonso pretty much ruined his career, he was doing a good job. Luke Weaver, he was amazing with the New York Yankees. Brooks Raley is solid as well, but still, Luis Garcia is a guy that you have some question marks with. AJ Minter's on the injured list. And for the Mets, they're looking like they're going to get a lot out of Luis Robert. He was terrible last 2 seasons with the White Sox. I think that was just being in a bad situation, to say the least. Carson Benji is looking like a relatively good outfielder for this team. Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien, these are 2 guys that I think are going to be able to move line, get on base. So Semien did have a rough go of it with the Texas Rangers, so wait and see there. But Jorge Polanco, he's not quite Pete Alonso, but he's capable of giving you 25 plus bombs. And Juan Soto, you know that he's going to give you a 400 on base, like 35 plus home runs. And then on the flip side for the San Francisco Giants, does feel like the lineup is starting to get going a little bit more. They obviously had that rough series against the Yankees. They They did have a little bit of a tough go of it yesterday as well, but still, you have a guy in Eloy Ramos who has given you 22 plus homers each of the last 2 seasons. William Adames just doesn't move the line, and Matt Chapman, when he's hot, he's hot. When he is cold, so that's a little bit less than savory to say the least. Rafael Devers just says you have to really find it with the Giants. Had an okay back half of the season last year, but you need a little bit more out of him. Gerard Encarnacion is a guy that I think has some upside, though, and for the San Francisco Giants, I do think that they get to Peterson here. I think that the command issues are going to knock both of these starters out of this game early, so semi-total 7.8. I do like the over on 7.5, and plus 109 or better, taking a shot on the Giants money line, and wrap things up with 955, 956. You've got the Minnesota Twins on the road against the Royals, as Cole Reagans goes for the Royals. Taj Juncal, Milton Bradley is on the bump for Minnesota. Minnesota underdogs plus 129 to a plus 136, minus 155 to minus 162. The number on the Royals, if you're looking to lay a run half with the Royals, anywhere between plus 130 to plus 140 on that run line, and total is 9 to 9.5 on the 9. Overs minus 120, the unders even on the 9.5. Unders minus 115, overs minus 105, and I do like the under. I set my total at an 8.2. Recognize that they moved the fences in at Kauffman Stadium, but you saw in the first game they set a total of a 9.5, and that went harmlessly under as well, even though you had a trio of home runs in that game. For the Royals, they averaged 3.72 runs per game at home last season. That was dead last in all baseball, and I think that they're going to be a little bit better this season, but man, it's a little bit difficult with some of these guys. Like Miguel Garcia is not necessarily a big power hitter for this team. Isaac Collins comes over from the Brewers. He's able to move the line, but again, not a guy that's going to give you a ton of power. Jonathan India has been a big giant flop since they picked him up. Carter Jensen, need to see more out of him. Know what you're going to get out of Bobby Witt Jr., 25 plus home runs, 375 plus on base. Salvador Perez hits for power, but he just doesn't hit for any average anymore. Jack Caglione has yet to find it at the big league level. And then Vinny Pasquantino, probably going to be good for 30 plus home runs this season. Flip side for the Minnesota Twins, they are hitting at 200 with 12 home runs through their first 4 games of the season, so that's a little bit of an issue. Luke Castillo, he was really good in terms of getting on base last season, but you just don't have a lot of guys like that on the team. Victor Caratini, I actually thought was a good move at the catcher spot. Ryan Jeffers has been a little bit iffy. Like Cody Clemens, 20-plus home run guy last season. Matt Wallner, same for him, but both of these guys hit below 230 last year. Josh Bell moved the line a little bit with the Nationals towards the back half of the season last year, but he's an all-or-nothing hitter. Byron Buxton is off to a little bit of a slow start to the season, but the fact that he's healthy is big. He and Royce Lewis have a lot of upside. If these guys can stay healthy, that'll be big. And Lewis, already does have a pair of home runs, not hitting for any average whatsoever, and he was awful last year as well. I have to wonder if injuries are taking a toll. Now for the Twins, what you really have to be mindful of is that this bullpen is not great, to say the least. Cody Funderburk and Justin Topa had a sub-4 ERA last season. They're rolling the dice on Anthony Banda, who was good with the Dodgers, but prior to that had done nothing throughout his entire career. Eric Orze was okay with the Tampa Bay Rays last season, but it feels like a mismatched bullpen. And for the Kansas City Royals, this is a really good bullpen. They are dealing with Carlos Estevez having a bit of an injury. We'll see how long he's going to be out for, but in the meanwhile, you've got Lucas Erceg, who's really good in terms of being able to close out games. Nick Mears was a nice pickup. He spent some good time with the Brewers. Matt Strahm, he was always a sub-350 ERA guy with the Philadelphia Phillies, and for Reagans, he was posting up a 4.67 ERA last season. Had a little bit of a rough first start against the Atlanta Braves, but with that 4.67 ERA, he was getting 14.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, allowing 1 home run per 9. Fielding independent was 250. Shows that he was such an unlucky pitcher. Now for Taj Bradley, 6.61 ERA after he joined the Minnesota Twins midseason last year. Not great, was giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings in a Twins uniform. Looked a little bit better in his first start, giving up 1 run in 4 2/3 innings. He was really good as a rookie with the Rays, and then it all just unraveled on him. I don't think that he's as bad as he was last season. I don't think he'll ever get quite back to that peak form with the Rays. I think you're going to be somewhere between A and B. I think that that'll be more than enough for the under. Somebody told it at 8.2, and I think that Reagans goes out there, dominates. I set the Royals where a plus 115 or better in on that run line. So like the run line, and I do like the under, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bet Show for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GNet_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every game every day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.